You've already started to listen to a MultipleSources.net podcast, and for more episodes of It's Always Sunny in Phoenix podcast, as well as other content such as other NBA teams, pro wrestling, and even comic books, oh what? Visit MultipleSources.net. And if you want to join the MS family, go to their website. MS is always looking for more writers and other podcasts, as well as video editors. If you want to join the family, just go to MultipleSources.net and check out the sidebar or something. They got something set up. Check it out.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Always Sunny in Phoenix, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. I'm your host, Charlie, and I have Mitch and David here with me today. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Yo.
That's right, Mitch. And anyways, today we are happy to be joined by Chris Axmann of the Almighty Ballin podcast. Chris, thanks for coming on, and how about you introduce yourself to our
Thanks
listeners?
Thanks for having me. So I'm Chris Axmann, also known as the Prof, and I am the proprietor of the Almighty Baller podcast network, found on almightyballer.com, and also the host of Almighty Ballin, the Almighty podcast. So just check us out. Follow me on Twitter, at Almighty Ballin, and then like my Facebook page, almightyballer.com, and, just live it. Love it,
Nice.
I love it.
What's not to love, really? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. Thank you, sir. And before we get into it, hit us up on social media. Our Twitter is at SunnyandPHXPod. Check out our Facebook under the name Phoenix Suns, Multiple Sources. And our email is sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. And of course, check out the webpage at multiplesources.net/Phoenix Suns. All right, things in the NBA are at a bit of a standstill right now, and we've been talking about the Olympics plenty as of late. So today we're going to take a broad view, and we're going to talk about the state of the NBA in general. A few things we're going to discuss today are the new salary cap numbers, the effect of super teams in the NBA, and what that does for league-wide competition, and then the direction that the NBA is heading in general as a whole. And after that, we'll top it off with how the Suns all fit into this. And then after that, hopefully we'll have some time for this. We'll go through the NBA schedule and let you know what games you can't miss watching this season. But let's get started and talk about the salary cap a little bit. So for this season, it's set for $94.14 million, and next season it goes up even higher to $102 million. And these big contracts that players have been getting have been big topics of conversation on social media amongst the whole professional sports world. So I think that really speaks to the popularity and the progress of the NBA over these past few years. And Chris, as our guest, you get first dibs. How about just general thoughts on this big salary cap?
I guess my prevailing thought with the whole salary cap thing is that those people who are sort of responding with, well, NFL players make this much, or, why do NBA players make all this money, and seeing these numbers and getting upset about it, I think those people need to remember that, the money, the profit is split right down the middle. So it's either going to go to him, it's either going to go to Melo, it's either going to go to Brandon Knight, it's either going to go to insert NBA player here, or it's going to go to some, rich white kid who inherited all of his parents' money because they were in corporate real estate, right? So, if anything, I think that it should be like 70-30 instead of 50-50, but that's my take on the numbers. It's like, cool, you worked your ass off and now you're an NBA player, and congrats, Mozgov money. Make it rain,
Making Mozgov money.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, a lot of the people that are talking about how ridiculous some of the numbers are and all that kind of stuff when it comes to other professional sports and everything, I think those other professional sports need to just get a better players association. I know a lot of NFL players don't make nearly the money of some NBA players. They are on a lot of non-guaranteed contracts in the NFL and those kind of things. That's just kind of the easy one to go to when you think of a sport that's really physical and guys that have a shorter shelf life than just about any other sport. The people that are complaining need to complain to someone else and just get a better players association. Figure out a better way for your collective bargaining agreement and start from there before criticizing a league that is basically doing it the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. And one more thing I think that is important to add to go along kind of with the injury thing is the NBA, there's a lot more games than the NFL. 82 games and then playoffs, and the NFL it's a lot less, but it's so much more physical. The risk of injury is so much higher. So, I think it kind of makes sense a little bit, but I can understand why these players are a little upset because they see how much money someone like Mozgov is making when the best quarterback in the NFL doesn't even make. Well, actually, maybe now it's a little closer, but whatever. It's the star players in the NFL aren't making anywhere as. And
I think that's particularly unfair because do any of us here doubt that Mozgov could be the best quarterback in the NBA?
I heard he has a cannon.
He probably
he has that groin
has
injury, so.
But he could replace like 2 football players. So, that's something to keep in mind.
And I like where this is going because a point I wanted to make was, is this going to make kids more interested in basketball now that they see, these guys are making bank compared to the other sports? Is that going to push more for basketball? Because if you look at it internationally, basketball, I'd say other than soccer, is probably the most rapid growing sport internationally. And I think that might be something that people take into consideration. A lot of kids are 3-sport athletes in high school, and man, some of you can even do that in college. So maybe that'll be a push for new basketball players to come in.
I think that's interesting. And I think that the injury stuff also plays into that because kids are seeing all this research they're doing on the brain and concussions and all of that. And so they're realizing that being in the NFL, playing football is not the safest thing in the world. And I was a football player in high school and I enjoyed it, but it's tough on your body even at the high school level, So I think that that's another reason that basketball is growing and why kids would be more inclined to play basketball over football.
I actually, on my network, I had a podcast, Sorry If I Spit When I Speak, that I went on, and it was actually about the whole topic of concussions, and the argument I was making is actually that, the NFL should just be done. It should just be over. Football shouldn't be a thing in its current form, at least. And, one of the arguments I made is that with all this new technology, right, with, laser sensing with it could be a very elaborate flag football game and it would be pretty cool, I personally think, right? It's just we just had this whole O.J. Simpson documentary on ESPN. O.J. is one of those guys who I just don't think that he would have had this bloodlust and started killing people if he hadn't taken multiple repeated blows to the head. And we're going to have to ask that question into perpetuity because, who knows? But it's not, it's basically like PTSD, it's hard to not draw that link when, all these players are seriously injuring other people or themselves.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And, man, all the concussions that have ruined people's lives from the NFL, I understand that there need to be measures made at least to combat that a little bit. You think about Junior Seau and his suicide and just all that stuff. And then if you think about it a little more, look at UFC. It's going to be a matter of years until they're talking about that, how the NFL is now researching brain damage and brain injuries and all that. That's another sport that, man, this is just an advertisement for basketball is what I'm getting at. It's safe. Come play basketball. You get paid a lot of money to do
it. Isn't it an argument for World of Warcraft, though? Okay, go ahead.
One, some old people would already say that we're going to glorified flag football. Two, you still have to look at that football is the biggest sport in the U.S., hands down. A lot of the people that are going into football, especially, Yeah, touchdown, not hands down, I guess. A lot of the people that are going into football, there are these Texas towns where they just gravitate around, like high school football, college football, all these towns that just gravitate around that, and it's a big community thing. And I think that plays almost as big of a role, where there are kids in Texas that are in high school that are taking steroids, so that way they can get better at that high school football and maybe get into college, Like, this is something that's been going on for a while, and just with the huge popularity of football, it's something that has been going on and just will continue to go on. So I don't think it's really going to dent into the NBA as much. I think that when it comes to the contracts and the money that the NBA players are getting, it'll be something that the guys looking into are like, well, that's not fair, blah, 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 and then go about their way if they're athletes into whatever sport they're going into, instead of even giving it a second thought.
Okay, let's bring this back to basketball a little more right here.
Quick, though.
How about
I
this?
I still love football. I love football, and I love
You got
the
it.
NFL,
You got it.
And things do need to change for safety. I just want to make sure people know that I'm not just trying to hate on the NFL.
Okay. Good.
Pretty much.
Those are my thoughts
Everyone
as
out
well.
there is pro concussion. Just so everyone's
I'm
straight
not
here.
pro concussion.
Man, I love that Will Smith movie. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you'd be
I
anti-concussion.
never saw
so.
it. I've been meaning to watch that, but I just haven't gotten it.
I heard it was awful.
I heard it was
so.
a heck of a
I
flick.
heard it was really sad when he had
Heck
to
of
kill
a
his
flick.
dog.
Oh my gosh.
I hate to be the guy to change topics again, but maybe let's get to this question here. Will this create more one and done factories in the NCAA? Do you think there's any way that teams will gravitate towards that to maybe have a better chance to get picked in that first round of the next year's draft? What do you guys think?
Yes. I mean, we've already been doing the one and done for however many years now. I think once the collective bargaining agreement gets changed a little bit with rookie scales, because right now we've been on the same rookie base pay for however much, the rookie base pay. I think that's going to get boosted up a little bit, but I think that this has been happening for a while now. And why would you go play extra years in the NCAA when you can go into the league and maybe be a late first round pick and still start getting paid and just get closer to those 4 or 5 years are up and you can get that big contract?
I mean, are you guys even in favor of the whole one and done thing? Because I personally hope the whole thing is done away with sometime soon. I mean, especially with the recent book, it was by Jonathan Abrams, right, formerly of Grantland, the whole Boys to Men thing. I mean, he outlined all these guys, and his conclusion when he's talked about it was that, I mean, it pretty much went fine. It was pretty much like a good deal. And, I had a tweet the other day, and, maybe this is a little bit dramatic, but, sometimes you have to be dramatic to get a point across. But I just think that there's this plantation mentality when it comes to the whole one and done rule. It's like, oh, it's for their own good. It's best for them. They shouldn't be making money. They wouldn't know what to do with it. I just think that's some really suspect language. I mean, South Park did that whole thing about it. And, I mean, they're adults, right? They should be able to make money doing a thing that they do incredibly well without having to go to, Turkey or Estonia.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
That's okay. I'm kind of with that too, and I'm a big fan of the college game, as our listeners know already. But what I would kind of like to see is let the guys who are really star athletes in high school go up to the NBA, like the LeBrons and Kobe's and whatever. Let them go to the NBA without going to school, and I think then that gives guys who aren't quite that level a better chance in college where they can play for a little bit longer. And there still could be some guys who go after 1 year, but if you let the really elite high school players go straight to the NBA again, I think that might be a little better for the college game.
Yeah, I like that. And throw an extra round onto the draft, too.
I love the draft.
I think we already have way too many players coming in. I don't know if we should add an extra round to the draft. What I'm thinking is that I'm behind one and done from the mere perspective that I don't blame a lot of these college athletes for trying to make the money as soon as they can. And then getting, at least with NBA trainers, with all that stuff, I am completely for that. As much as I do kind of like to think about hearing about some of the old days and wishing that I could have been around, when Kareem was doing his 4 years at UCLA, when Jordan was at North Carolina, any of that kind of stuff. And while I would prefer that, I also, when there are really good talents that are, you have to just wait that 1 year to get into the NBA, it's really frustrating. So I don't know if you change it to where guys can come out of high school and they just have a year extra on their contract, or, if, I think, who was it? I think Barkley maybe on a Bill Simmons podcast like months ago. I don't remember what it was, but said something about if you the longer you stay in college, the shorter your rookie deal can be, or something like that. I think was the idea, was that basically if you stayed in 2 years in college instead of like a 5-year deal, you would have a 4-year deal.
I don't know, Ernie. That sounds ridiculous.
Good impression.
Was it?
Good impression.
That was nice.
I'm excited.
I mean, we knew what you were going for, and that's
at
what
the
makes
least.
a good impression, right?
I don't think Charles Barkley can make a good... actually, I love Charles Barkley. I shouldn't hate on him. He's great.
Yeah, you're on the wrong podcast to hate on Charles Barkley, so...
Yeah.
Hey, did you see how fast... I don't even
That's
think that
very
took
true.
a full second for me to U-turn completely. I think I deserve credit for that.
I think it clicked, and you were like, oh, wait a minute, I'm on a Phoenix Suns podcast. I should probably turn this around really fast.
I mean, like, you guys should be empathetic to trying to turn a situation around, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, like those nachos, the cheese. We're cleaning the
cheese is warming
seats.
up.
We're heating up the cheese. Our cheerleaders aren't
Hey, hold
that
on. Don't
bad
talk smack
anymore.
on the
They're-
Golden
they're
Grannies,
decent.
because they are great. So you better not be
Oh,
talking
I'm
smack
not
on the
talking
Golden
about
Grannies.
them. Golden Grannies and Dancing Dads. Just both beautiful things. I love that. All right, so let's move on a little bit. We'll talk about some super teams, and if we think that's a good thing for the league or a bad thing for the league, and how it's going to affect competition and all of that. And to start things off, here's a prediction of mine, and you guys feel free to tell me if I'm completely wrong about this. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. So we have this big cap number now, and with all these friendly relationships that NBA players are getting into nowadays, I think we're going to see more of these super teams. I think within a few years here, we're going to see 4 to 6 super teams within the league, consisting of 3 to 4 all-star caliber players. So, I mean, you look back in the day, and the stars of the NBA, they did not like each other. They were competitors. They were peers, but they were competitors, and they didn't like each other. But nowadays, with all the social media, Twitter, keeping in touch instantly all the time, I think these guys have grown to respect each other a lot more and want to become friends with each other. And especially look at these Olympics, too. Those guys are getting buddy-buddy for sure over in Rio. They're having a nice time. They're becoming good friends. I just see that this kind of trend starting to trickle into the league, and I really want to know what you guys think about that.
I'm going to correct you a little bit. It's not like these guys that played in the 80s and 90s and stuff hated each other completely. Magic and Bird were... I mean, there are plenty of stuff where they were great off the court and all that other stuff. There's where Isaiah and Magic were really good until Isaiah kind of maybe alluded to Magic being gay. But, a lot of these guys were very friendly with each other. This isn't a new thing or something that softens up our league. A lot of these guys were friendly to each other. And then on the court, they got to the point where it was harder.
Yeah, honestly, I think that it's rather than the narratives being transformed by the players, it's the players being transformed by the narratives, because now that people don't listen to sports talk radio, they listen to It's Always Sunny in Phoenix instead, and Almighty Ballin, the Almighty Podcast, and we're a bunch of frickin' millennials like Markieff Morris, throwing towels around and not respecting their elders. Like, I just think this new media, these, Twitter denizens like you and I, we aren't as interested in taking out our aggression on, Boston if we're from the Lakers. I don't think that we have as much hatred to harness or something like that. You know, I think we're, yeah, I mean, it's just like a cultural aggression thing. I think that, you know, we write these stories and we're less prone to, you know, like attack Larry Bird if we're, you know, I mean, except for the Houston announcers. They're, God, I hate those guys. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, they just, like, slam everyone and they have no idea what they're talking. Okay, anyways. But do you guys sort of understand what I'm trying to say? It's like, it's the difference between a social media podcast platform as opposed to talk radio, you know, newspaper even.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But I think if social media was around in the 80s or whatever, I'm sure this wouldn't be even a narrative that's going on, because you would have seen those guys hanging out with each other and doing whatever and having beers at halftime and all that other stuff, you know, that we know is some of the things that would happen.
Hey, I've never seen a picture of Barkley, Jordan, and Drexler on a banana boat. Insert any 4 guys from the 90s All-Star teams. They weren't doing that banana boat business.
I mean, I don't know if you'd call it a banana boat, but there were some things going on. But anyways, I don't even know where I was going with that. I just
lost at sea.
Banana boat? I'll tell you what banana boat is.
One thing I am curious about what you guys think is, how do you define super team? Because today we've got people saying, like, you know, there's Golden State. Okay, Golden State is a super team. That's pretty obvious. But the Knicks, I don't know if I'm going to call the Knicks a super team. Maybe some people would call the Bulls a super team. I wouldn't. But how do we define super team today?
I think when you
4
have
all-star caliber
3
players.
guys that are a top 5 in their position. Not top 5, top 10, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I completely goofed on that one.
Yeah.
I meant top 10.
Yeah, I think I can see that. Something around those lines. Like, I think big 3, at least a big 3 or a big 4, that's sort of the thing that... And I think actually there has to be sort of a conspiratorial type thing where, you know, everyone decides that they're going to all come together on this team. Because were the Warriors a super team last year? I feel like no. It has to be
I don't think so.
It has to be like a coagulation. Like, it's like, oh man, we're going to be all sneaky and I'm going to join the Warriors and it's going to be great, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's something I could see happening.
Okay, realistically, we've had super teams for forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the original Celtics team in the 60s with Bill Russell and Havlicek and Bob Cousy and all that stuff, that's a super team. Although that's 5 Hall of Famers on a roster.
Right.
In the 70s, or not maybe the 70s, but like the 80s Lakers teams with Kareem, Magic, James Worthy, that's basically a super team. You're looking at the Bird, Parrish, McHale, that's a super team. You're looking at, I mean, even Barkley was drafted onto the 76ers where he's playing with Moses Malone and Dr. J, and sure, those 2 guys are a little older, but they're still pretty good. Some people could consider that a super team. With all these stuff going on, and we're looking at super teams, I mean, the Warriors weren't a super team last year, but they are now because Draymond Green exploded and was getting triple-doubles and all that other nonsense. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, Draymond Green's so great, and blah, 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 and everyone loves Klay Thompson. Maybe a little bit less after the Olympics, but everyone loves Klay Thompson.
Hey, he had a big game today.
Yeah, that's right. He totally did. I watched it completely and don't have it recorded and haven't watched it yet. I mean, like, yeah, they're a super team now because they added Kevin Durant, but realistically, they should have been a super team last year. They had 3 All-Stars and Coach of the Year and a guy that probably should have won 6th Man in the Year in Andre Iguodala. They were the defending champs. They were better. They're a 73-win team. I mean,
they were a regular season super team.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Is if you build organically rather than have superstars coming from all over the league to join you, then it can't be a super team, I think.
I'm with you. I think I agree with that.
I think it's... I think the negative connotation of a super team is for that, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the negative connotation of the fact of when 3 guys that are free agents come together and join a team, then I get that. But, I mean, there's no reason why the Warriors weren't technically a super team last year. Because, I mean, they were.
I don't think super has a negative connotation.
No, but, like, it's a negative connotation of, well, that's a super team. These guys all joined up together and because they couldn't win on their own.
Oh, sure, okay, yeah.
It has a negative connotation when you're talking about it. When, like, when you're talking about it, like the Heat super team, you're talking about, oh, those guys all joined together because the only one of them that could win a ring was Wade, and he had to have old Shaq to do it. You know, LeBron couldn't win, and Bosh couldn't win on their own, so they had to join and become a super team.
I mean, do you guys like watching super teams play? I mean, I thought that, just from an X's and O's perspective, and I mean, I get into that type of stuff, I mean, it was fascinating seeing a reverse horns with Mario Chalmers getting pick set by Ray Allen and Dwayne Wade's God knows where, and LeBron's like 20 feet in the air, and Chris Bosh is just sitting on the sideline. They're just playing 4 versus 5, and they don't care. And they're, you know, somehow the ball gets through the basket, some type of cheat code thing. It's interesting watching them try to come together. And it was fascinating watching that 2008 Celtics team just all of a sudden have this magical season where all the pieces fit. Like, that's good entertainment. It's good basketball, right?
100%. I think so. I think you take the name off the back of the jersey, and people are going to love watching those teams. But I think it kind of goes back to the social media, millennial kind of thing that we talked about, where it's like,
I hate millennials.
You know, people are so much more people are so much more involved in these people's lives today. So I think that's kind of why there's a little bit of negativity around it. But from an X's and O's perspective, I can't wait to watch this Warriors team.
I mean,
sure, and I'd say the Warriors were must-watch TV last year. Right. I mean, every time I had the ability to turn it on, I was watching a Warriors game just because, like, you could tell they just had it last year during the regular season. I'm talking, obviously. Playoffs were a bit of a different story. But, I mean, the way they moved the ball, the way they were playing defense as a unit, even throw the crowd into this, I think that has a big factor on it, too. It was just the place to be.
Yeah. Well, so
when you're talking about a historically great team, you're going to be one. I mean, that's must-watch TV in the same sense as it was that same atmosphere of like LeBron's second to last or last season with the Heat, where they went on that like 27-win streak, I think it was, or something like that in the middle of the season, where they were just unstoppable. I mean, it's that same thing where even if you hate them, you kind of want to watch it because you're just watching like greatness, basically.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I was sort of it was really important for me to see LeBron win it for the land. I think that we've all probably been NBA fans over 10 years. I'm 12, so I've definitely... and so I think that...
Fresh out of the womb, pretty much, there, yeah.
So I think that
Watching
we have a little bit more of an emotional identification with LeBron. So I really wanted him to come home and win one for the land. But that being said, if I could choose to move that thing happening to a 16-17 LeBron James championship so that I could legitimately witness undeniably the best team in NBA history, then I would have chosen that. I'm a little upset that I got gypped out of that because now it's like, oh, I remember the Jordan Bulls, those 30-year-olds with their old men voices, you know, and I mean, I kind of am upset about that. And honestly, you know, that 73-win Warriors team, I feel like they were the best regular season team of all time. You know, they were the best team of all time. I mean, they didn't win a championship, but it's a lot harder to go 82 games, especially when you're the Warriors and you have the biggest target on your back.
I mean, did the Bulls not have the biggest target on their back? When they went 72-10?
Well, yeah, no, I think they did, but they went 72-10.
No, I'm just saying, like, contextually. So at that time, there were people talking about 72-10. No one would reach that again. I mean, up until the Warriors were at 70 wins, no one was talking. I mean, people were still saying that the Warriors wouldn't get it.
How would you guys feel if next season everyone's expecting the Warriors to come out and win like 62 games, not to push themselves too hard? how would you guys feel if instead they were like, hell no, we're going to finish what we started last year, and they won 75 wins and then the championship?
I'd love to watch it. I'd love to see that happen. Not necessarily a team in our conference, in the Western Conference, that the Suns have to play a few times a year. But
I just feel like Draymond's always ready to go dicks out, so that just adds.
We know that he is.
That just adds an element of unpredictability to the team. Where if Draymond is the quote unquote emotional soul of the Warriors, which I mean that was the whole narrative, that was the whole idea. Everyone was like, oh yeah, he's the emotional leader, and then Steph is the basketball leader. That was supposed to be what the dynamic is. So if that's true, then Draymond's not going to stop. He's going to go ham.
I like that point.
I really don't want to have to root for LeBron in the finals again, so my dream scenario is the Thunder actually upsetting the Warriors in the playoffs. But I mean, let's be real here. They aren't going to go ham. They're going to play and they're going to be great, but they're not reaching 73 wins this year. I mean, the argument is that they're better, but they're less deep. They've got a worse center. They've got less I guess they're kind of working on their chemistry right now because Durant's playing with Draymond and Clay. But
well, I mean, I think next year when Bogut takes a significant step back statistically, I think the league is sort of going to have their eyes open to the fact that Andrew Bogut was sort of, a crutch. Like, I mean, they were sort of carrying him. I mean, I think Ezeli's not good at basketball, for example. I think that it's sort of like the Clippers and Luka Mbamute, where you could put like a pumpkin out there tied to roller skates, and they would be pretty good. They'd score a couple of points, you know what I mean? So I think that Bogut, it doesn't make sense, right? So I think that Zaza is going to go to the Warriors, and then he's going to look a lot better because the floor is just going to be wide open and no one's going to pay any attention to him, and he's just going to, like, Zaza real smooth into the basket.
I do not agree with you whatsoever on the Bogut thing. I just
fight me.
I'm just being real. I just don't agree. Wow. As much as Bogut's an old man and he isn't a great offensive player, I think he was still just as much of the defensive anchor for that unit as Draymond was, and I'm almost speechless right now.
Well, how would you explain? Okay, if you replace Andrew Bogut in that lineup with Andre Iguodala, the net rating goes up by 50. So, what's the explanation there?
The net ratings go up, yes, but how long of? I think you have to look at the stretches of basketball that they're playing. I don't think you can roll out Draymond Green as your center for 12 minutes at a time.
Well, yeah,
or 8 minutes at a time.
Yeah, because you're, I guess, morally obligated to put in Anderson Varejao. But I mean, with that aside, if you decided that you weren't going to play Anderson Varejao, then you could. Why not? I mean, during the regular season, you're not going to because you don't want that to happen to Draymond Green. But Draymond Green is a better rim protector. He's faster. Andre Iguodala gives them another element to their game. I mean, Andrew Bogut is good at setting picks. So is a sofa.
I am going to completely disagree that Draymond Green is a better rim protector than Andrew Bogut. Yes, he is faster. Yes, he can guard for short spurts guys from 1 through 5. But I think I'm just going to have to disagree. I think that the loss of Bogut for the Warriors is going to be pretty big. And even the loss of Ezeli to a certain extent, because of not as much Ezeli, but if they would have been able to have Bogut and then maybe have Zaza come off the bench, say that you had someone like Zaza come off the bench, I think that Bogut, the impact is going to be felt. And I think that even though Dallas isn't that good on paper, I think that probably old man Dirk with Bogut and Barnes around him are going to be a surprise team this year. And I think Bogut's going to be able to help as a Tyson Chandler role for Dirk and show that he is more than just getting carried by a team. And I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah,
because I can't think of anything else.
Before we move on, it is worth mentioning, right, that I was playing devil's advocate to a certain extent. I mean, I was dialing up the volume to 11. So, to a certain extent, I believe that, but not nearly as abrasive as he's a sofa.
I know the sofa
It's
part.
good radio, you know? Listen
I
to
know the
Almighty
sofa
Ballin,
part.
the
I
Almighty
was
podcast.
I was completely thrown off. Wow. But there are people that make that argument. Anyways.
Here's what I take of this. A couch standing on its end would be a heck of a rim protector, though.
That's a good point. I
True
mean,
that.
Wouldn't be bad.
Maybe like a futon unfolded.
yeah. You know, what about that Airbud movie? It's a golden retriever.
What about an 11-foot brick wall? Would that be a good rim protector?
Yeah. That
I mean,
could
ask
be
Stan
good.
Van Gundy. You need to just build a wall, you know? That's the
Exactly.
trick. Or form
Someone else says that, too.
Donald Trump.
That wall business.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you did it.
Donald Trump.
You're not supposed to say his name. If you say his name 3 times, he'll actually appear.
Donald Trump.
Nope, no. Oh!
We're not this kind of podcast.
You're fired.
Podcast. Moving on.
All right, yeah, we better move on, and let's involve the Suns in this podcast a little bit, since we've been more or less ignoring them for the last half hour plus here. But let's how do the Suns fit into this league that we're seeing nowadays, today's NBA? And I think what I'd like to talk about first is Coach Earl Watson and his philosophies and the culture he's setting in our locker room now. I think he's a great leader for this type of thing. I think he's a guy that's not going to get discouraged if we're losing games. Like, he went through this last year, and we still brought him back. We still made him our full-time head coach. So, like, what do you guys think about Earl Watson? I'm a big fan, so take it easy on him if you have a differing opinion.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
hit it up,
interested
Chris.
to hear, honestly. Like, I want to know what the fans think. I mean, in short, before I listen to you guys, I think that he's a really good emotional leader, and that can take a team pretty far. I mean, I think that that's what Avery Johnson and Monty Williams is like that. I think even Dwayne Casey in Toronto is there, and that's significant. I just don't know what his X's and O's are like.
And that's the thing. No one quite knows the X's and O's of Earl Watson's scheme that we're going to be seeing here. So, I mean, it'll be interesting, and I assume he's not going to go Twin Tower, Len, and Chandler in at the 4 and 5 at any point again this season. I just don't see that happening. But, I mean, I get a feeling from Earl Watson, like, if Earl Watson were a cult leader, I'd be in that cult. And I'd be like, yes, Earl, I'll do anything you want me to do for the greater good. Like, that's honestly how the guy makes me feel. And I think that's rubbing off on the players. I'm just excited about it. And I think, we're talking about us millennials here. And I think Earl Watson might be the guy to keep track of them, because we know our owner isn't too big on those millennials. So someone's got to do it.
Yep. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about your owner, but you should continue the thought.
I like Earl Watson as an emotional leader, and he did not get a shot to kind of show exactly what he's going to run scheme-wise and all that, because last year was a weird season. And if we think it was a weird season, I can only imagine how weird it was for someone like Earl Watson to come in the middle of the season pretty kind of unexpectedly. So that's interesting. I think that he definitely has the players rallied around him. They're all on board, and that's something that's very nice for the Suns to have, because it's something that we haven't had exactly in the past. And I'm hoping that Earl Watson can kind of grow with this young team. He's a young coach with a young team, and I think they're going to grow together, and I think it's going to be nice to watch. It might be a little painful along the way. It might take some time, but we got to be patient, and I think it's going to grow into something nice.
Yeah. I have actually taken a big 180 on Watson. As someone who saw Watson as a guy that they brought in to just try and convince LMA to sign here last offseason, and voicing that a lot, especially when we started doing the podcast and even when we were writing, really this past season, and really thinking that we should have hired a guy with more experience to be the next head coach. I really have completely turned around my stance, and I'm really happy with the Watson hiring in general. And I think this has a lot to do with the culture that some of these NBA teams have, where they are almost where I know Watson said that it was about a family atmosphere, and that's always something that I have really liked about him, is trying to create that family atmosphere in the Suns locker room, which has been devoid of a positive atmosphere for the last couple of years. So that has always been something that I've really liked. And I think that you see some of these teams where there is a lot of loyalty, even though we are going where guys are just signing with teams trying to win. The smaller market teams have succeeded when they have created this atmosphere of loyalty in the organization. And I think that with the family atmosphere, Earl Watson will be able to kind of create that. I have no idea about his X's and O's, but from a loyalty perspective, I think that is where we're kind of going to be going with him at the helm. And I think that's something that we haven't had in the Suns locker room in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, for some outside perspective, outside of the Suns fan base, I think that the cultural renaissance that it certainly appears that the Suns are undergoing right now is nearly historic. I mean, the Suns were almost, no doubt, besides the Kings, but the Kings aren't really even in the NBA, I think. They're just a mirage or something like that. But outside of the Kings, I think that the consensus around the league was that the Suns were the most poisonous organization, at least the most poisonous locker room. And then, I mean, during Summer League, I don't think that there was a more supported bench. I don't think that there were players who were more openly rooting and interested in the success and development of their fellow teammates than this new Phoenix Suns team. And I just think that's incredibly impressive. And that's, I feel like, what should probably happen. Step one is that organizationally in the locker room, your team needs to have some type of cohesion. And then, you know what? If Earl Watson isn't good at X's and O's, that's fine. Sometimes you just have to have that first coach take you so far, and then you have to have someone like a Tom Thibodeau or something to finish it off. But I feel like, worst case scenario, that's what Earl Watson can be, and that's a great thing.
Right on.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the roster a little bit here. We have a nice youth movement going on here. I like all of our young pieces. And then we have these solid vets sprinkled in too, and I think those guys are going to be the leaders in this cultural change in the locker room. Who better than Chandler and Dudley and Barbosa, who just won a championship, to come into your locker room and be the mother hen to all these kids. And I just think those veterans we brought in are going to be huge for us there and on the court as well. I mean, Dudley's not washed up yet. He has some game. Chandler, you saw the 20 rebound games last year. He's definitely serviceable at center. So, what do you guys think about the contract and contracts of players, how they fit in? Man, I'm just excited for the future here. And if you take a look at these contracts, Tucker's going to be up next year. And then who else? Len on an option and Goodwin on an option. So what do you guys think about the future there?
This is something that I'm also really interested to hear what Chris has to say on, because these signings this offseason have really kind of been strengthening that idea about the family that we just talked about. So I don't know how it looks to an outside, but to me it looks like we've brought in guys that in the past have been really great, positive locker room guys, and guys that have loved living in Phoenix and being on the Suns, in Barbosa and Dudley. So I am interested to hear what Chris has to say, because that's how I see these moves and how I see as the development of our players, how these moves have gone. So take it away.
Yeah. So I think I can only speak for myself, but I at least can explain my reasoning so you sort of get where I'm coming from, so that it's not too ludicrous. But I mean, I think that what they're doing is taking a really, really good swing for the fences. I think that, Devin Booker, I think he was the youngest player in this draft. And then Dragan Bender was too.
Right.
And then Marquise Chris was probably the rawest player in the draft. And so if your development staff is, good to great, right, this could be a stellar team in the future. And so I feel like they're rounding out this roster. They're trying to create this culture at the same time. Maybe some people are upset that they did sign those veterans because they want the young guys to get all the minutes. I just feel like what happens when you do that is that you get a 76ers situation where, it's just that sort of, without having professionals to sort of show you the ropes and show you how it's done, things can pretty easily get off track. So I feel like, it was a really good signing. And they kept the good apples, too. So that was significant. Like, Tyson Chandler and, of course, PJ Tucker. So, yeah, I just feel like they selected really, really high upside guys. And, besides Ben Simmons this year, probably the second and third most high upside guys. And they're building their culture, and they're just really doing everything that they can do to win a championship, and whether or not that happens is just sort of up to chance and fate and stuff. However, that is a concern that Earl Watson, that there was this whole changing of the flags in the middle of the last season with Hornacek, because they didn't just flush him out, they flushed out basically all of his coaches as well. So I don't...
Before they got rid of him.
Right, right. And so I don't know what the developmental staff looks like, and I think it's going to take probably 1 year, maybe 2, to see what that is, what the talent level of that development staff is. And I mean, that's going to be significant. I think Marquise Chris is, really, really raw. And if he gets utilized properly, he could be like Paul Millsap easily, a more explosive Paul Millsap,
We like to think of him as baby Amari around here.
Yes.
I mean, he can't weigh all that less than Amari. He's more like 3-minute younger twin brother Amari.
Yeah.
Close enough.
I was talking age-wise.
I'm fine with
I was
that.
just going age-wise.
Yeah, but I think that there's definitely something there. And it depends on development. Again, hopefully, you know what? You guys definitely have a chance to make up for... last time, because Amari Stoudemire, I think, famously said when he was like 27 or 28, I've never really thought about NBA defense before. And that's bad. So if they're thinking about, okay, let's fill the mold of Amari, then, try to fix that element of it too, probably,
I like that. And I love all your thoughts on the Suns, and I'm excited for next season. You helped out a little bit on that. So, yeah, we're going to move it along. Let's talk about some games that we're looking forward to next year. And we don't have much time. How about everybody goes around, says one game that you have to see next season, now that the new schedule's out. So, Chris, start us off.
Okay, February 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern, the Hawks in Houston. I love it when Dwight Howard gets yelled at. It's the best, I mean, it was great. It was great the first season after he left the Magic, when he was talking about, I hope they retire his jersey, and saying that he carried a bad team to the finals and stuff, and the Magic just really quickly hating him, and he didn't have the same level of disdain for the Rockets. I think by February 2nd, I think Dwight Howard can piss off the entire city of Houston, right?
I think he already has, so...
Yeah.
That won't be an issue.
Yeah, but maybe a murderous rage, like a DayZ type of rage, trying to climb up the city walls,
Wouldn't put it past Dwight. Wouldn't put it past him. How about you, Mitch?
Okay, I'm going to say January 14th, 2017, Suns versus Spurs in Mexico City. I think that is going to be a cool game. We already know we've got the Spurs-Suns rivalry, and it's two teams that are geographically close to Mexico, so putting a game in Mexico City is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's big time. I'm excited for the team to head down to Mexico and play a couple games this year, right?
Yeah, Mavericks the 12th, and then Spurs the 14th, but I'm looking more forward to the game against the Spurs.
Yeah. Gotta be.
Hey, you know I'm from Dallas.
How about you,
right?
David? Oh, you're a
Oh,
Dallas guy. Do you
nice.
root for the Mavericks?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm sort of emotionally detached from them, but actually, that's not true. I'm emotionally detached when they're not playing well. I'm an eternal optimist, so it's like I don't let the downs get me down, and the highs just get me so high.
Full disclosure, I've been at the Suns arena numerous times to watch Mavericks games, and I yell at Dirk Nowitzki every single time. Just loud, obscene, hateful things.
Well, I mean, sports
I think
hate
I need to let
is
you
a
know
unique
that.
type of hate. It's irrational. It's supposed to be that way. So do what you got to
But
do,
hey,
dog.
I love the guy. I saw him at that celebrity charity soccer game he was playing, trying to do some butterfly kicks, or not butterfly. What am I going for here?
I don't know. I don't
the,
think he's like a butterfly.
the spinning back kick. What is it
The
called?
bicycle kick.
Maybe.
Bicycle. Started with a
bicycle
B.
kick.
Bicycle kick.
That
I was waiting for
hilarious.
Mitch because he was the only one that was going to get it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you.
you're welcome. It was hilarious.
But so I do have a little love for Dirk. Got a little bit.
Yeah,
I have love for Dirk when he's playing for Germany, not when he's playing for the Mavs.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess, like I said, I try not to have the negative feelings of sports. So, but it's cool though, right? It doesn't bother me. I love Dirk though. He's brought a lot to the city of Dallas. He seems by all indications to be a really cool guy. So, what's not to love?
Yeah, we differ because I personally thrive on sports-related hate. So that's what gets me through my day.
I thrive on hinky communist metaphors. So.
Oh, we know
Those are great.
that all too well.
It's the beauty of sports fandom. You
Yeah.
can have your positivity, negativity,
Can I just come in and say
communist analogies.
that my non-sport shout out is going to be Das Kapital?
Oh my god!
Right on.
All
I'm
right.
just kidding.
So,
Just kidding.
are we doing 2 games or are we only doing 1? Because I've got
Just one.
I've got a homer game and a non-homer game. But
Okay, be quick.
okay.
So
That's
Golden State versus Lakers, November 23rd. See Luke Walton coaching against the Warriors. See how he's trying to make almost like a mini Warriors in LA. That's going to be fun. But for my homer pick, I've got Suns versus Lakers, which is kind of weird because it's Lakers again. But the first time we're going to have a Laker game without Kobe on the Lakers roster. And feels like the first year where we're truly into the next era of our rivalry with them. So, those are my picks.
I like that. And I'll piggyback off that because I'm a salty human being. My games that I want to see are the Lakers' first game without Kobe Bryant and the Spurs' first game without Tim Duncan.
Oh, it's going to be so
Because I'm
sweet.
just
I can't wait.
I'm just excited to see that. Like I said, all this hate, it's been there for a long time. It's time for someone new to be hated by me. Not Timmy or Kobe anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to
but
have so much
actual-
extra hate. Man.
I
LeBron,
know.
it's all going to you. And Draymond.
But real basketball-wise, mine is Timberwolves versus 76ers. Because I want the Sixers to see how it's done and see the process that it's going to take for them. And for them to see just how far away they are from that right now.
Oof. Looks like you haven't listened
Yeah.
to my 76ers season preview.
Nope.
Maybe I did.
Okay.
Real quick, gotta say, if we're not going to mention the Thunder versus Warriors, Russell Westbrook's first game against
I was just
Kevin
about to get to
Durant,
that.
I mean,
Come
that
on.
was answer number
That's the
one.
obvious one.
Right. I wrote down, you said 2 originally in the outline, but I wrote down 2 real choices and then 2 hipster picks. It's like I wanted to be able to say something a little bit off the beaten path. I figured someone was going to say Warriors. See, like, this is the type of thing we need to coordinate, guys. You really dropped the ball here.
We're not coordinators.
Yeah. We like to think this is a tight ship, but it's far from that. And it becomes very obvious when we have a guest on. Then, like, it's
No,
just
this has
going to be
been
rough.
great. This has
we
been,
know this.
This has been the most fun, at least in this month, that I've had on a different show.
Well,
Can
thank
we
you.
quote you on that and maybe put it like on the top of our webpage?
It's going to be in
And
our
I mean,
Twitter bio
This
now.
is the most fun
I mean, not.
the Almighty Ballin podcast has had in a while.
I mean, not like starting in July 14th, like 30 days. Not in the month of August.
That's fair.
I thought
Yeah.
you almost said July 2014, and I was like, man, that's a long month.
All right. I think that's a cue to start wrapping up the show like we always do. It's time for David's Comic Book Corner and Mitch's face melting metal minute. Is that? Yeah.
That's
nailed
what we're
it.
going
That's what we're
with.
going with.
And then if me and Chris can come up with something, we'll throw that in too. So, David, take it away.
All right. So I had to actually look at what books I've read this week. I'm going to go ahead and go with a kind of classic story. It is Batman the Man Who Laughs by Ed Brubaker with art by Monkey, Zurcher, and Soud. It's kind of this iconic Joker story where it's basically kind of a retelling of Joker's first kind of introduction in Gotham City. It's a really good Batman story in general. It's got some good Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon, I guess he's not commissioner at the time, but Jim Gordon moments, good Batman moments, good Joker moments, and it's just a all-around fun read. So Batman the Man Who Laughs by Ed Brubaker.
Good old Eddie B. Mitch, what do you got?
Whenever you say Ed Brubaker, I still laugh.
Had to bring it back.
Okay, so today I'm going to plug an album that is a concept album that I really, really enjoy called The Emptiness by Alisana. Came out in 2011. I've been listening to it a lot because Alisana is releasing a book version of this album, and it's got a story that is a little bit mysterious, and there's a lot of fan theories. People aren't really sure what exactly the story is. It's the band has called it a tribute to Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm really excited to read the book. I have it pre-ordered, but the album is fantastic as well. And my favorite songs are "A Lunatic's Lament," "Heavy Hangs the Albatross," "In Her Tomb by the Sounding Sea," and "Annabelle," the final track. It is very epic. So yeah, check that out. The Emptiness by Alisana.
Good stuff. And I'll be really quick here before I throw it over to Chris. I was without an air conditioner last week here in Phoenix, and that's terrible. I recommend not ever having to go through that. Maybe study up on how to fix it and maintain it, because that's not my forte. Kind of bit me in the butt a little bit. And I noticed a definite decrease in my mood over that period of time. So, man, just stay comfortable. That's all I'm telling you. Just stay cool and stay comfortable. Take it how you want it. That's it. Chris, go for it, man.
So I guess I'm gonna go with books, and I guess I'm gonna go with Shame by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie's most famous for his book The Satanic Verses, because he had a fatwa declared on him by the Ayatollah of Iran because he heavily implied that Muhammad was schizophrenic. So, that was pretty controversial. But his book, his book Shame, is really like a literary masterpiece. It's about a woman in Pakistan who sort of overcomes cultural repression, and it's about sexual liberation. It's about Pakistan's relationship with the West. It's about colonization, anti-colonization, and just sort of the struggle to remain alive and remain human at the same time.
Hey, that's
Nice.
cool stuff. And before we get going here, do you want to plug your site, social media one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. It was real and it was fun, but it wasn't real fun. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. It was great. And so follow me at almightyballer.com. Wait. Like my page at almightyballer.com, and then follow me at Almighty Ballin. Check my site out. It's almightyballer.com. We've got articles. We've got a really dope podcast network about all sorts of stuff. We're about to launch another podcast, Hoops Historians, with, one veteran TV and radio guy for the Warriors and actually the Suns, and then another guy who is a writer of NBA history articles for me. So Dan, Dan Ryan, John Cannon, it's going to be great. Check out the network. Check out some of the podcasts. Read some articles. And, leave a 5-star review. Do the whole thing that you do. And, you know what? Actually, do special for me. If you listen to this podcast right now, this Suns podcast, and you haven't left a 5-star review, then as a higher authority, I feel like I'm obliged to say that you should do it. Really, honestly. They do a great job.
Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks, man. And thanks for coming on. And I'll plug our social media before we go here. Follow us on Twitter under the handle @SunnyandPHXPod. Find us on Facebook under the name Phoenix Suns Multiple Sources. Hit us up through email with questions or suggestions at sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. Head over to the website at multiplesources.net/Phoenix Suns and the entire Multiple Sources blog and podcast network. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you again in the next one. Go Suns.